Many years ago, I started off poor. Started off broke. I started off pretty stupid. I've done a good deal of traveling, and over the years, I began to study the subject of success, and I had one simple idea that came upon me in my late teens, and I think it was the most important idea that I've ever had. It was simply this, that if you study successful people and you do what they do, you'll be more successful. And if you study unsuccessful people and you avoid doing what they do, then you will not be a failure. Then one of the things I found is that if you study success, you begin to internalize success principles. And if you practice proven success principles, and if you do what successful men and women have done throughout history, then you will be successful too. It's such a remarkable discovery, but it has been worth a fortune to me. Now here's another discovery. 95% of what you do comes from habit. And if you do something repeatedly over and over again, what do you develop? You develop a new habits. So you can learn the habits of highly successful people. You can learn the habits of highly paid people. You can learn the habits of people who get into the top 10% and into the top 20%. And you can learn them with practice because all habits are learnable. All skills are learnable. There is no limit to what you can accomplish if you just simply dedicate yourself to developing the habits of other successful people. So the idea that you can short circuit this, that you can just jump to the head of the line with no work, it's an idea that people fall for all the time, just poor suckers. And what happens is it never works. It's not possible. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and act as though it were impossible to fail. And this brings us to the most important part. If I can just summarize in 1 minute, it is this. Your true beliefs are only and always expressed in your actions. It is not what you say or what you intend that tells what you believe, but only what you do. Your actions are always the true measure. And the interesting thing that we've learned in behavioral psychology is that if you do not feel self-confident, courageous, consistent, clear, and so on, if you don't feel like it, and most of us start off not feeling like it, if you will pretend as though you have the quality already, if you will pretend as though you have the quality already, the feelings will generate the actions, and the actions will generate the feelings. If you will act, walk, talk, and live by the same principles and do the same things that successful men and women do, even if you doubt yourself in the initial stages, eventually you will come to the point where you actually feel to the bottom of your soul, like a successful, positive, confident, cheerful, optimistic, unstoppable human being. And that's the key. Act the part until you feel the part. Do what successful people do and do it over and over again until it becomes ingrained as a habit. And I did 2 things which really had a profound effect on my career. Number 1 is when I heard a new thing, I would immediately try it out. I noticed that many other people heard the same things, but they took no action. They wouldn't take any action at all. Whereas when I heard something new, I would run out and I would try it out quickly. Number 2 thing that I learned is that nothing works. Even the best ideas don't work. At least they don't work the first time, and sometimes they don't work the first 5 times or the first 10 times. So I made a resolution that if I heard a good idea, I would try it 5 or 10 times before I passed judgment. And for a set of people, think about what they want and how to get it most of the time. They think about what they want and how to get it. Clarity is the starting point of all success. It means clarity of thinking. It means thinking clearly, and it extends from thinking clearly to a series of other things with regard to clarity. It means the ability to determine exactly what it is that you want to be, have, or do in life. And the more I study successful men and women, the more I find that every single one of them, the top 5%, are very clear about where it is they're going and what it is they want to accomplish. And when I look at unsuccessful men and women, or men and women who seem to be unhappy and floundering, I find that almost invariably they have a very, very limited sense of direction. Sometimes no sense of direction at all. Now, the comfort zone is we become comfortable doing what we're doing, and we are uncomfortable not doing that. Remember, we try to move from discomfort toward comfort, but we don't try to move from comfort toward discomfort. Trying something new, setting a new goal, committing ourselves to a whole new course of action or study is a very discomforting thing. And what we do is we pull back into our comfort zone. So the comfort zone is the great enemy of success. It keeps us in a homeostatic situation. It keeps us constant with our previous behaviors. It keeps us at a low level of accomplishment. In order to break out of the comfort zone, we've got to set bigger goals. We've got to set big goals, big, hairy, audacious goals that really wake us up, that are impossible to accomplish at our current level of accomplishment. Now, I was reading something in philosophy a couple of years ago, and it said there are only certain things that a person can do for themselves. A person can only breathe for themselves. A person could only eat for themselves. A person can only drink for themselves. A person can only learn for themselves. So, the one thing that only you can do is to learn. No one else can do it for you. No one else can give it to you. Only you can learn new things through hard work. One of the people on the program Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous who had become successful as a singer, he said, "Isn't that wonderful that you become so successful as a singer?" She said, "Yes, it's wonderful." She said, "But when I'm up on stage in Las Vegas, I'm making $50,000 a week or whatever it happens to be." He says, "Nobody sees the 16 years that I spent traveling around, living in a van, singing in cheap honky-tonks where people throw up on your piano and get drunk on the floor in front. Nobody sees the 16 years of living on the road, living at an average of less than $5,000 a year. Nah. What they see is the person up there on the stage. But every single great success was at one time a failure, and they failed and failed and failed and failed and failed over and over again. And all great successes are a story of failure, 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 failure. Outstanding success. Boy, ain't he lucky. Isn't that right? Boy, he was lucky. He sure had the right connections. So consistency is important, and even if you don't see yourself getting the results, be consistent. Keep working steady, 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 knowing that you're accumulating. You're putting yourself on the side of the angels when you're working consistently. Nature is neutral. Nature doesn't say you'll be successful and you not, and you a little bit more. Hey, cheers, it's blind. Nature is neutral. Nature is neutral. Nature says if you will do what other successful people do, you get the same results. That's it. Whether you come from a farm or a poor family or you have no education, I thought that you had to have good grades in school in order to be successful. And then later I thought that you had to have a university education in order to be successful. And then later I thought that successful people are people who are somehow better than you and I. They somehow have unique talents, that somehow the gods have descended from Olympus and touched them on the heads. But one of the things that I found is that nobody is better than you or I. When you see men or women accomplishing great things, they're not better than you and I. They're not different from you or I. They're just doing things in a different way. You look at a person you went to school with who's now doing surgery as a doctor. The person's the same person except that they've learned how to do surgery. You look at a person who you went to school with who is now an outstanding success in a particular field. All they've done is learn how to be a success in that field. And consistency. There's a law of accumulation in the universe. If I can pass this on, a law of accumulation that says that even though you do 100 things or 1,000 things that you don't see, eventually they accumulate and they gather a force of their own. That every single great accomplishment in life is the result of thousands of minor accomplishments that nobody ever sees. Interesting point, the single greatest source of self-made millionaires in America. You know what industry it is? Can you guess? You wouldn't believe it. Dry cleaning. Dry cleaning shops are the greatest single source, one industry that's contributed more self-made millionaires than any other industry, dry cleaning shops. Now, the key to this, if you want to become wealthy, if you want to be, I'm going to tell you something, that if you want to be wealthy in life, if you wish to become very wealthy, if you wish to become very wealthy, if you wish to become even a millionaire, you can do it if you're willing to pay the price. But most people become millionaires by offering a good or service that people use all the time, and they offer it just a little bit better. They do it just a little bit faster. They do it just a little bit faster. They put a little bit more grace or finesse into what they're doing. They handle it, they wrap it, they are more polite. The restaurant that has people coming back to it may have food that's only 5% different, but it's the way that people handle it that's so different. You can do anything you want in life. All you have to do is find an idea that's 10 and new, and you'll find that if you flood your mind, read magazines, read books, ask questions, ask why people are doing things the way they're doing, look for ideas. Keep your mind open and flexible. Ask questions. Remember, one new idea is all you need to start a fortune, and within every single person here, you have 4 ideas, an average of 4 ideas per year driving to and from work, any one of which will make you a fortune, any one of which will make you wealthy. How many times, I can prove it to you, want me to prove it to you, how many times have you been going about your daily business and you see the need for a product or service and you said, I wonder why somebody doesn't produce that? Or in about 2 or 3 years, then you say, well, it can't be any good. So I thought of it after all. I grabbed some Groucho Marx when he resigned from a club once. He said, I wouldn't stay in a club that would have me for a member, of people like me to remember. So we used to get those ideas. And we say, well, can't be any good because I thought of it. And then 2 or 3 years later, a company comes out with that idea, or some company, and makes $1 million. And you say, I thought of that idea 2 or 3 years ago. Every single person here has had that experience. What you have to do is trust your ideas. Trust your idea. If you decide that you're going to earn a certain amount of money, that you're going to achieve a certain level of wealth, that you're going to achieve a certain life estate, and you program that into your subconscious mind, and you then turn it over to your intuition, you will get the ideas, the insights, the inspirations necessary to achieve your goals. And that's the only difference between very wealthy, successful people and the average person, is that they simply follow their intuition. They're not smarter, they're not different, they're not more educated, they're not more talented. They just follow that inner guide. They just follow that inner guide. Why are poor people poor? Because they think poorly. It's really important that you realize that you have everything that you need within you right now to achieve everything you could possibly dream of in life. That success is predictable if you commit yourself to becoming excellent. It does a whole lot of other things within your mind, but if you commit yourself to becoming excellent, it changes everything about you. And only the top 5 or 10% are excellent. Okay, 95 of your success will be determined by how clear you are about what you want. Most people are unclear. They don't really know. If you say to a person, what do you want? They'll say, well, I want to be rich. Or they say, well, I want to be happy. Or they say, I want a happy home, or I want to travel. But these are not goals. These are just wishes. I call these cigarette smoke goals. That's where you take a puff of a cigarette and you go exhale, see, but it just disappears.
Most people are organizing their lives around cigarette smoke goals. They just come through their minds and they just disappear like a sound of distant music.
It comes and goes. But successful people are very clear about their goals. Many years ago, I was a karate student. I was also a karate instructor, and I competed in 3 international championships. And one of the things that I learned from my best karate instructors, and I studied under 6 world champions, is they told me that when you fight, always move forward, even if you're only moving forward half an inch at a time. Just always move forward, he said. When you're moving forward, 100 of your attention is forward. But if you're moving backward, even a half an inch at a time, half of your attention is always behind you and where you're going. So always move forward. Always have the daring to go forward. Whenever you have a choice of either staying still and playing it safe or moving forward, move forward. Move forward, not because you'll necessarily succeed every time, but because it reinforces and cements the habit of moving forward. Most people, when they have a choice of moving forward or staying and playing it safe, play it safe. Play it safe. But I think General Douglas MacArthur said, there's no security in life, only opportunity. This life is very perverse in a way, because the more we seek security, the less we have it, and the more we seek opportunity, the more we have security. Helen Keller said this beautifully. She said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. That the tendency, she said, in the earlier parts of this statement, she said, the tendency to seek security is the low road to failure. That courage is absolutely essential. And one of the things that I used to think is that if you were really courageous, eventually you got to the point where you weren't afraid. I'm going to tell you something that if you're not a little bit afraid, at least 3 or 4 nights a week, you're not trying hard enough. If you're not falling on your face over and over again, if you're not trembling when you go to sleep with your heart pounding, then what is happening is you're not trying hard enough. You're living too far within your potential. Already successful people live on the outside edge of what they're capable of, and it's always a little bit scary on the outside because we all have feelings of uncertainty. We all have fears. We all have fears. We all have doubts that hold us back. But the brave person is simply the person who moves forward and keeps taking the chance. You cannot imagine a successful person without courage. You cannot imagine a successful person without the courage to face and confront their fears and to move forward. In my experience, the fear of failure is the greatest single reason for failure in adult life. The fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, of losing our money, our time, our effort is what paralyzes us and holds us back. But the fear of failure is a habit which can be counteracted by the habit of courage. And if we don't overcome that fear of failure, then we'll just be like the 80–90% that do not fulfill their potential. See, the wonderful thing is only a few percentage of people fulfill their potential in any generation, and we can join those people simply by deciding to do so and doing what the other people do. As simple as that. We decide to become an engineer. What do you study? You study engineering. You want to become a better cook? What do? You study cooking. Do you try to do it all by yourself? No. You get cookbooks, you take classes, and so on and so forth. If you want to be successful, if you want to fulfill your potential, study the men and women who are fulfilling their potential and just do what they do. Finally, with regard to courage, the greatest expression of courage is to persist in the face of adversity, to persist when things really get rough, to be able to pick yourself up and pick yourself up over and over again. And believe me, if you decide to go for the goal in your life, you're going to get knocked down over and over and over and over again. Every single week, you're going to have heartaches, disappointments, frustrations, setbacks, and obstacles. But without those obstacles, no success is possible. You see, the only way we can be successful is if we develop momentum, and we cannot develop the momentum unless we are struggling with obstacles. And struggle with adversity goes hand in hand with all great success. What most people do is they back away from adversity. But if you want to see if you're a brave person, what they call the 4 o'clock in the morning courage, wait when things go completely to pieces, when things are the worst, when your very best deal falls apart and your rent is late and you're tired and you're sick and everybody is mad at you, and you're tired and you're sick and everybody is mad at you. Your car doesn't work. Then it's the person that picks themselves up and says, nothing is going to stop me.